Packers suck.
Third down, Fields. Good, and there's room to run for Fields. Oh, turn it on the speed.
Wake up. This is Out High Bear Nation.
What's up, everybody? Good evening, and welcome into another episode of Out of High Bear Nation right here on the Undefeated Sports Network. As always, I am your guy, Andrew Tarbill. To my left is the man, the myth, and the slight legend, Angelo Ace Camacho. What's up, brother? It's been a while since we've got to grace the airwaves together. How you doing tonight, my guy?
Tarbill, I miss you so much. Like, it's
Well,
just
I'm
not
here
the
now.
same without
Soak
you.
it in.
You know what I mean? It's my flow isn't the same without you. It's like 50 Cent and Eminem. You know what I mean? Dr. Dre, Eminem.
I thought you were about to give me the Lloyd Banks, and I was like,
Lloyd
I don't know if
Banks.
that's
Oh,
really
I
a
would put you in
compliment,
that
but-
category. You're better than Lloyd Banks. Don't sell yourself short, man.
But anyways, man, I'm glad to be back with you tonight. Guys, we have a big show here for you tonight on Out of Hibernation. Two guests will be joining us to talk our Chicago Bears here in Bears-Packers week. It is a big week. The Chicago Bears have the chance to dethrone the Green Bay Packers, so to speak. Finally get that elusive W
We're gonna
out
take the
there in
North and
Green
never
Bay
give it back.
and knock the Packers out of the playoffs. Bears have a lot riding on this week, if you ask me, and we'll get the expert opinions here a little bit later on in the show. But here around 8 o'clock, we have none other than Greg Braggs Jr. from CHGO joining us. And a little bit later on in the show, we will have Eric Lambert of Sports Mockery joining us as well. So two guest show lined up for you guys. Big news, as I said this week, man. Really, you see the flow in the locker room, so to speak, as these guys prepare for Green Bay, and everything that Eberflus is saying at the podium, that he's not going to sit any of the starters, that this is going to be, a game that the Bears have pride to play for, so to speak. And really, you need to close the season out on a high note. To recap last week, Justin Fields, 262 yards passing, I believe his total was. Just like 318 yards total, including the rushing yards. Really solid performance from QB1. He was out there dropping dimes all over the field all game long. That back shoulder throw to DJ Moore in the end zone for the touchdown on the opening drive, really well executed. There were a couple other balls throughout the game that were perfectly placed that were dropped by receivers, as the Bears have typically experienced over the course of the season. But our Chicago Bears are rocking and rolling, so to speak, Ace. They're getting into a groove here. They won the last 5 games at
5
home,
of the last
believe it or
6,
not. That's
man.
crazy.
I'm pretty sure they're on, right? If they win this game, it's 6 of the last 7. And
so
you're looking at a team that 8 weeks ago we thought was dead and buried, and there was no shot this team was going to have any sign of life. Justin got injured, and we were just sitting there not sure the direction that they were going to go. And now 7 weeks later, we're sitting at a spot where there's rumors of the coach staying, and what are they going to do with this number 1 pick now?
I want to pause on that for a second, Ace, because Ian Rappaport, I believe, was asked his opinion. Either him or Schefter, one of the two, were asked their opinion on whether Eberflus would be here next year, and they said they think he's going to be here next year.
Yep.
I want to know how that culminates with you. How does that sit with my guy Angelo Ace Camacho, knowing that Eberflus has this defense looking top tier? I mean, they're top 5 in most defensive metric categories right now. It's a hard sell. For me, I'm torn, Ace, because I love what Matt Eberflus has done with the defense. However, I don't think that he's the offensive-minded coach to put everything together for Justin Fields. Although Luke Getzey's play calling has been somewhat better over the past few weeks, there are still those question mark moments where you really scratch your head and wonder what he's doing schematically, especially on the goal line. I mean, it's one of those things where just when everything starts to flow perfectly, they run a screen and I'm just shaking my head like, why are we doing this at this point in time? But,
Yep.
last week was a really well executed game through and through. All three phases, offense, defense, and special teams performed well. But honestly, the defense has been the bright spot for this team. And last week, 4 takeaways, guys. 4 takeaways by the Chicago Bears defense. That is crazy. Absolutely nobody thought that we would be playing at this level at this point in the season, especially when, many people say that the team has nothing to play for at this point. I don't think that's true. I think this team gives me Detroit Lions of last year vibes in the sense that they're finally starting to gel and everything's starting to come together. Brent in the chat, Tarbill is back. I appreciate you, Brent. Yes, I am here. We got a star-studded show for everybody tonight. So
they were tired of hearing my voice driving the show for the last 2 weeks.
Well,
Need the captain of the ship to be here, and
that's what I'm here for, Ace.
that's right.
And I'm the better looking of the two, so I'm just kidding.
Nope.
Just kidding, but
Facts.
all things considered, man, this team has really taken a turn the last few weeks and played at a very high caliber level. I think the true test will be how the Bears hold up against Green Bay. Obviously, everybody knows the Bears have won like 3 of their last 20 matchups against the Packers, or
4, I believe. 4 of the last 20.
4 of the last 20, which is
God,
atrocious. It's
the Bears
sickening as a
haven't beaten
Bears
the
fan.
Packers. So think back to 2018. There was so much that hadn't happened yet in this world. COVID didn't even happen yet in the world that we lived in when the Bears beat the Packers the last time. So
yeah, I guess that's one way to look at it.
Brent better watch it.
Brent's just stating facts. It's all good, man. But no, ultimately, 2018, the last time the Bears beat the Packers. It's been a long time coming. Obviously, week 1, the team came out flat, didn't look well prepared, wasn't ready for the challenge that Green Bay presented. However, I think if the defense plays at the high level that they have the last few weeks, it's going to be very difficult for this Green Bay Packers offense to get anything going against our defense. Defense has been able to shut down the run. The secondary's consistently been able to pick off quality-ish quarterbacks. I mean, they had a couple interceptions on Joe Cool, which, like it or not, Joe Flacco is still a guy that can get out there and go get you, 300, 350 yards a game, regardless of the fact that he's 38 and some of the players on the team played as him in Madden when they were children. But ultimately, Joe Flacco's a guy that can still go out there and get things done. The Bears defense was able to pick him off twice. Looking at last week, obviously, Atlanta's quarterback's not up to the challenge, throws 4 picks. But this defense, man, I can't speak volumes enough of how well they've prepared, how well they've executed the last few weeks. And then you look at the offensive side of the ball, and it's like, okay, we're finally starting to get the run game going as it should. And Atlanta's defense isn't a scrub, bottom 5 defense in the league. Atlanta's defense, I believe, is averaged about 13th position in all metrics. So, right there in the middle of the pack. But this is a team that Chicago Bears go out and really put everything together against this Atlanta team. And it was good to see the game plan executed in all phases. And honestly, I'm excited to see where that leads us here next week, this coming Sunday. I'm sorry, not next week, this coming Sunday against the Green Bay Packers. But with that, Ace, it looks like we have our guy, Greg Braggs, down in the green room. So let's go ahead and bring in our guy from CHGO, Greg Braggs. Greg, what's up, brother? How we doing tonight?
What's up, boys?
You want to talk about man, myth, and legend? This man right here is the epitome right here.
I like to tell people I'm famous for stupid reasons.
being famous for stupid reasons is still better than
So-
not being famous.
Well,
I mean, you even have your own graphic right here on the show. So
well, I appreciate you guys having me on. I've been coming on here for a while, and yeah, for the last couple of years to be joining CHGO is obviously a lifelong dream. I'm certainly not selling it short, and it's been a lot of fun on the ride for sure. So I appreciate you guys, being there and supporting me all along the way. Back when 3 people were watching Brags in the stands, and now I'm on a show where I get to have thousands of people tell me how stupid I am, which they're not. They're not wrong.
Out there on Meatball Island. I love
That's
it, man. I
right.
watch you guys over there at CHGO all the time. But Greg, thanks for joining us tonight. Ace and I want to get your opinion first and foremost. And I think I may already know the answer to this, but what are the Bears doing come draft day? Are they trading the number 1 pick away? Are they keeping Justin Fields, or what's going to happen in your opinion here?
Well, I think the pendulum is very volatile and it's swinging, right? And if you'd asked me this 3 weeks ago, I would have told you as long as the Bears have the number 1 pick, there was no question in my mind that Caleb Williams would be a Bear here come April. But then after that game on against the Atlanta, now I feel like the pendulum's starting to swing the other way. And people will go, "Oh, well, how are you? You're going to base that off of one game?" Well, not necessarily. I think you're simplifying the reasoning there.
Right.
It's about, Ryan Poles asked for consistency. You're starting to see that cultivate. Yeah, it's at the end of the year, and we're like, whoa, they could end up having 8 wins on the season. And before the year, if you had asked, if they finished with 8 wins or more, every Bears fan would have taken that. You forget that there's context. When you say that before the season, you forget what that entails. You forget the journey that it takes to get there. And it's not always pretty. You're not going to lose perfectly every time. And so, I've been very reactionary this year. I've fired the coaches 4 times. I've traded Justin Fields in my mind probably another 5-6 times. And, that's just what we do as fans. But right now, I would say, if I had to bet, they're going to run it all back. Now, ask me in 4 more days after they play Green Bay, and my answer might be different, and that's what we're going to go through here this week and for the next couple months as the evaluation process, takes place. And so it's, like I said, it's just an emotional roller coaster. The pendulum continues to swing. But right now, I would say Justin Fields, Matt Eberflus, and even Luke Getsy are doing a hell of a job of creating this opportunity to be back next year.
So Braggs, the Packer games, especially for the McCaskies, they're looked at differently than the rest of the games. Do you think they're waiting to see the outcome of this game, or do you think they already have an idea of the direction they're going to go?
Well, I think if they're definitely moving off Justin or even Eberflus, I don't think winning this game would change that. But if they were thinking about keeping him and that pendulum had just tilted in their favor here in the last couple weeks, and then you go lay an egg to the Packers, I think that could push them back off. You get what I'm saying? So if they're already off, then I don't really know if a win or anything is going to change that. But if they're back on, and it's just like right on that edge, then losing this game could be detrimental to that opportunity. So they are playing for something, and I like that. There's pressure in this game. The Packers want to make the playoffs. We don't want to let the Packers into the playoffs. The Lions didn't last year. So you want to claim, a lot of fans are like, oh, we're like the Lions of last year. You want to stake that claim? Well, you got to beat Green Bay and keep them out of the playoffs. And if not, then you can't really say you are. You can kind of, but it's not the same. It's not the same momentum we're going to carry into the offseason. So yeah, I love that kind of pressure. I would encourage that kind of pressure to put on these guys, because then we'll find out what you're made of, and the Packers defense isn't very good. Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers damn near beat the Packers 2 weeks ago. Bryce Young put 30 points on the board against Green Bay, had one of his best days of his career so far, had over 300 yards passing. So hey, Justin Fields and this offense should be able to move the football, score the football. And if they are, the way the Bears defense is playing, they're on paper, there's no reason why they can't win this game. I'm not saying they will, but there's no reason why they can't, So, yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of weight placed into this game.
Couldn't agree more there. I think this is going to be a statement game one way or another for our Bears. Some interesting reports, obviously, over the last few days, Greg. You heard the fans on Sunday chanting, "We want Fields," down there on the 50-yard line. And then DJ Moore comes out and says, "We want Justin to be our quarterback."
Mm-hmm.
It's up to the higher ups now. How much weight do you think that has, if any, on the decision that the higher ups are going to make here in the offseason? Do you think DJ Moore's voice as a vocal guy, a leader in your locker room, puts any stake into the decision that Ryan Poles and ultimately potentially Kevin Warren, if he overrides said decision, make?
There's no question. He can't avoid the vibes in the locker room. He can't avoid what Darnell Mooney and Jalen Johnson and DJ Moore and more and more players. Montez Sweat has been vocal about it. All these guys have Justin Fields back. There's no question. Excuse me. There's no question that has to carry a lot of weight in Ryan Poles' decision. And he's a pretty shrewd GM. Like Roquan Smith was popular in the locker room. David Montgomery was popular in the locker room, but Ryan's the type of guy that it's about the money. He did offer both those guys contracts, by the way, so it wasn't like he didn't want them at all. But it does become a game of chess for how much you're going to pay guys. And so I'm sure with having the number one pick, and no, you don't have to give Justin Fields a contract this year, but you kind of got to springboard ahead to that moment if you're Ryan. So if you're going to keep Justin, you got to start kind of having whisper conversations with him, like, well, what would you be thinking? Just to try to get the full picture of your decision. I would think that would have to be part of it. So, but at the same time, what's more important to Ryan? Because the last couple of years he's been ripping it down, got rid of Khalil Mack, got rid of, all these different guys, Robert Quinn and the other guys I've mentioned. But now we're in a moment where the team's starting to turn, the team's starting to compete, and there is chemistry building. And so do you value that? Do you value what's cultivating here? Or are you going to continue with this shrewd business moves that you make and make sure it's always about the money first with the team, the future of the franchise always in mind first over that? That's a tough one to answer for Ryan, and these players are making it very hard on him. They're coming out publicly and really holding Ryan's feet to the fire. I mean, he even said a couple weeks ago after the Cleveland game. I mean, this was after Cleveland where they lost, the offense didn't play well. DJ Moore saying the two guys coming out of college, they're not better than Justin. So he was standing on it even back then. He wasn't just standing on it after some big hot win that everybody's, loving him. And it's the popular thing to say. He's been saying it for a few weeks now. So, this is going to make that a lot tougher on Ryan Poles. Will it completely sway him? No, I think we've seen that, but it can't be underestimated. It can't be undervalued how much of that is a weighted part of the decision.
Now, speaking of, money and contracts and stuff like that, Jalen Johnson, right? Last year, no interceptions. Year before that, 1. This year, he's already has 4. That's a guy, in my opinion, that I could see him really trying to bring back. I hear that, they're really trying to work on bringing him back. Do you see any scenario where they don't get the deal done?
I hope not. I don't, because they have the franchise tag at their disposal for him.
Right.
So the Bears have leverage here. And you saw here in the last game, Jalen Johnson got hurt. That was that's a scary moment, because Jalen's been betting on himself since the trade deadline where they couldn't work out a deal. And he banked on that bet big time. His value's gone up since the trade deadline. And so that's good for him. Well, you get hurt, that hurts your value. So luckily it sounds like he might be okay. He might be able to play on Sunday. he was certainly talking like that after the game. But at the end of the day, the Bears do have leverage, and they can put a transition tag on him. They can put a franchise tag on him, which really will lock him up, where he's going to have to either decide to hold out, which hurts your value, or come to a meeting of the minds with the front office. And I think now, before the trade deadline, I would have thought Jalen Johnson wouldn't want to be here. His value had been driven down because the team hadn't been very good. They hadn't had a very good pass rush, so his production wasn't there. You know, you got Matt Eberflus publicly saying at the end of last season and points in this year, well, we need production at that position. He needs to turn the football over. And I'm sitting there, if I'm in Jalen's shoes, I'm going, well, what are you doing for me to help get that production? Well, guess what? They bring in Montez Sweat, and he's getting a lot of production. So that just goes to show you how this stuff works hand in hand. Well, now Jalen has put in the time, put in the hard work, grinded through these tough years, and now things are looking real good for this defense. And for Jalen, I think he'd want to be a part of that. So, you know, I don't think he's given this team any hometown discount by any means, but at the same time, your familiarity with this defense, you don't have to start over. The team's starting to really turn the corner. Why wouldn't you want to be here for yourself as well, just to be a leader on this team when they take it to the next level and get on the playoff stage or maybe even a Super Bowl stage? You want to be here for that after the time you've put in. So I think eventually they'll get a deal done. But ultimately, I think it also plays into the Bears' favor that they have a lot of leverage in that contract negotiation.
Do you think they should have got the deal done before the trade deadline, in your opinion, Greg, now that Jalen's really turned that corner? I guess my question ultimately is, do you think they're going to end up paying significantly more than they would have had they got the deal done prior?
Well, I mean, you know, what's the most a corner is making? 19, 20 million?
Yeah.
Right.
19.
And there was like rumored it was somewhere around 16, 17. So we're kind of picking nits here with, you know, how like he's already said publicly he doesn't expect to be paid like the top corner in the league, but he wants to be recognized as one of the best. And so, yeah, I think they should now, hindsight being 2020. Yeah, that's the price of playing poker. They should have paid him at the trade deadline because he's been outstanding since Montez Sweat has been here. So ultimately, they are going to have to pay a little more. But like I said a minute ago, like, do you think they can still find some kind of middle ground? Because, like, why wouldn't Jalen want to be here? And the Bears do have leverage. So if Jalen still wants to play hardball and ask for an absurd amount of money, the Bears are going to go, well, all right, we're just going to franchise tag you, Jalen. Like, and players don't like that. You know, we've seen many times where a player gets franchise tagged and they hold out because you're risking their career. They got to play under a 1-year deal. Yeah, it's a lot of money, but there's a lot of risk attached to that if they're to get hurt in a very violent sport. So, you know, I think that, yeah, they're going to have to pay more than probably what was on the table at the trade deadline, but is it going to be so much so that it's going to bankrupt them? Or, you know, I think we're only talking a few more $1 million, a couple. Yeah, okay. I know that sounds silly to say, but I don't think it's like such this detriment, you know, thing that's going to hurt them. At the end of the day, he's earned it, and you got to tip your cap. Absolutely. And Ryan Poles, they just released a video a minute ago where Jalen Johnson and Montez Sweat made the Pro Bowl, and you could see, you know, the excitement with them. And so I think Jalen is enjoying what's going on here lately. So I think there'll be a meeting of the minds eventually.
Awesome. One more question, Greg, before we let you go. We do appreciate you giving us some time tonight, but Eddie Jackson, is he on this team next year?
No, I think Eddie and Cody Whitehair are going to be cap casualties. They can save money on the back end with both of those guys. I wouldn't mind if they brought Eddie Jackson back, just because I think the secondary is just really starting to come together. And then that's one less position. Like, all right, you want to draft a safety? Well, where are you going to draft him? Because the first 2 picks are going to be either quarterback, wide receiver, and pass rusher. You know, those are the 3, you know, positions. It's not going to be center or safety with those first 2 picks. Now you're waiting all the way until the 3rd round. You're going to draft your starting safety in the 3rd round. No, you know, you can't, that'd be risking a lot if that guy's ready. So Then you're looking in free agency. Well, so like I said, like you could bring Eddie back for one more year and I wouldn't have an issue with it. But I also understand how the cap works, and I could see them moving on from Eddie. He's had injury problems, and that's been a big part of, why you might move on from him and then maybe try to find a veteran replacement out there somewhere else.
Yeah, as much as I would love to see Eddie back, me being an Alabama fan, I'm still devastated over that loss to Michigan. But Eddie being an alum from Alabama, I hold him near and dear because I got to watch him in college as well. But I see how the production's tapered, especially his ability to tackle this season. It seems like he's almost stepped away from guys where he would make an impact play in years past. And
Right.
maybe that's a longevity thing. Maybe he's trying to stay healthy for whatever team he ends up on in the future. But ultimately, I'm okay either way. I get it if he's not here, but I would like to see him back on a friendly deal if they can make the right move for both the Bears and Eddie Jackson. But again, Greg, we appreciate you giving us some time tonight.
Of course.
Before we let you go, do you want to let everybody know where they can find you?
Yeah, you can find me on the mean streets of Bears Twitter all day, every day at GBrags Jr. 23. Follow if you dare. Sometimes it can get a little spicy on the timeline, but we hold it down over there. And I'm at CHGO Sports. If you go to YouTube, subscribe or like our page or whatever. And excuse me. We do live shows every day at noon, Monday through Friday, pre and post game shows. We got one more to go here on Sunday, and then we transitioned to some off-season coverage with the Super Bowl playoffs and Super Bowl coming up, and then the Senior Bowl and the Combine will be in Indianapolis.
Right.
That was a lot of fun for me last year, kind of getting to survey the scene down there in Indy. It was very interesting to kind of rub elbows with different people and learn about the inner workings of the league a little bit. So we'll be doing all that and waiting for that that big day on draft night, day one of the draft, to see what the Bears are going to do. Because if I had to guess, Ryan Poles is going to hold his cards all the way until that night. I could see it going all the way until either the week of the draft, and maybe Poles wants to make that move before the night of, so he has a clear mind going into that first night. But if I were him, and I correctly predicted the Bears were going to trade back with the Panthers last year.
Yeah, you did.
And if I were him this year, I would wait all the way until the very night of that draft, and I wouldn't make a decision on anything. I would base it completely off of if I'm gonna keep Fields, great, but I'm gonna wait until the night of the draft, and I'm gonna see which team's gonna panic and give me the most insane haul I've ever gotten. If I'm gonna get rid of Fields. If I'm going to get rid of Fields, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to wait all the way until the night of the draft. Not every team in this league is going to be able to answer their quarterback position before the draft. There's going to be a few guys available, but they're not. Every team's not going to have their quarterback situation solved. So hold Justin all the way until the night of the draft. See if a team will panic and give you their first round pick for them, maybe more. And
Right.
now all of a sudden you have 3 first round picks this year. So. It'll be interesting to see how Ryan Poles plays this offseason compared to last year's.
Greg, we appreciate it as always, man. As Greg said, go follow him on Twitter as well as the CHGO brand on YouTube. Great content they're pumping out each and every day. They even have Cole Kmet on once a week, right?
Yeah, we've had Cole on. It's been a lot of fun. This past Tuesday was our last interview for the year. We're hoping he'll jump on here in the off season, maybe 1 or 2 times, but it was a lot of fun to work with him this season and kind of give him the fans' perspective of line of questioning and yell at him about failed plays and things of that nature and do it a little different than maybe Adam Hogue or Mark would do. So it was a lot of fun to try to maneuver that, but Cole was great and he's been a great player for this team. So that makes it a lot easier to have fun conversations with a guy that's been as productive as him. So yeah, I appreciate you guys tuning in and all the support, as I said to start. And anytime you guys ever need me on, just feel free to reach out.
Yeah, Brax, appreciate it, man. You
appreciate you, Greg. We'll talk soon, man. Have a good night.
Bear down.
Bear down. Greg Braggs Jr. Always a great time talking with Greg. Him and the CHGO crew really putting out some good content over there. And man, opportunity to speak with a player like he did there with Cole Kmet throughout the entirety of the season. That's got to be something else.
Yeah, I mean, Braggs has always been good to us ever since we first started
Absolutely.
doing all this. He's always been willing to jump on, and it's always cool to see people like that who we watched before we even started doing this now get that opportunity that he's had.
Oh, absolutely. Man, we got a star-studded show, guys, as I alluded to earlier, and we actually already have our next guest ready to go in the green room. So I think with that being said, let's go ahead and bring in our guy, Eric Lambert of Sports Mockery. Eric, good evening. How we doing, my friend?
I'm doing good, guys. How are you?
Doing well. It's been a little while since we got to chat Bears with you, so I'm interested to see your opinions. Obviously, follow you there on Twitter in the Sports Mockery brand, so I feel I may know your thoughts on this topic as well. But I have to ask. I'm going to open with the same question I opened to Greg with, and that is: do the Chicago Bears keep Justin Fields, or do they draft a quarterback?
I think they draft one. I genuinely do. I think Justin has played better this year. I'm not going to deny that, but I think his efficiency as a passer still isn't where it needs to be to convince Ryan Poles to pass on a quarterback at number 1 overall for the second straight year. I just don't think Poles will be able to convince himself that he can do that again, even though, he could trade and, compile all those picks, because I think this is a really, really good quarterback class. And I'm not just talking about Caleb Williams and Drake May. I'm talking about Jaden Daniels. I'm talking about Michael Penix. This is a really good class. And I think a couple of these guys are going to end up being really good quarterbacks in the league. So I don't think Poles is going to be able to convince himself to pass on that again, pass on keeping the rookie contract window open so he can keep building the roster with a cheap rookie contract. And I think he's going to get a pretty decent return for Justin if he were to trade him. So I think that's probably going to be what ends up happening. Maybe he starts to change his mind if Justin happens to beat the Packers on Sunday, because we know how big beating the Packers can be in this town. But as things stand, I'm relatively convinced that Poles is going to end up trading Fields and drafting someone.
So, Eric, do you see a situation where, a guy like Michael Penix potentially fall into a third round where they end up keeping Justin, drafting him, and then seeing what happens the next year, maybe two with Justin while they have Penix in the back, learning the offense and all that stuff? Or do you think it's pretty set in stone that if they draft a quarterback, they're going to look to trade Justin?
I think it's pretty much set in stone. They'll trade him because I think the value will never be higher for him in terms of trade value, because it's only going to go down from here unless he plays outstanding, which we just don't know if that's going to happen or not. He's played really well. I think his stock is as high as it's probably going to be once the season ends. I don't know if they can get a first, but I think it's more possible than it was a couple of weeks ago. So, the way he's playing now, you just never know. And also, I believe Penix is probably going to end up going in the first round at some point, or the high second at the most. So, and we know the Bears don't have a second. Maybe they'll get one if they trade. But as things stand, if you're going to get your quarterback, you probably need to get him in the first round. So I don't think the Bears want to create any sort of controversy in that regard. They're going to give Justin a chance to go somewhere else, find his footing elsewhere, and then they're going to start over with somebody new and somebody Poles personally believes in and personally picked.
We got a question here from Brent in the chat, Eric, and I'm assuming this is in regards to your take, saying that you think they're going to move on from Justin and draft a quarterback. Is that what you want, or is that what you expect?
It's both. It's what I want and it's what I expect. Listen, I need to preface this. I like Justin Fields. I really do. He's a phenomenal athlete. He's a natural born playmaker, but I believe he doesn't have the passing prowess to execute at a high enough level to win in the playoffs. That's my big thing with him. He can make big plays in the passing game. I'm not denying that, but the down-to-down consistency, I still just don't see it. And that's my big sticking point with him. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he goes somewhere else and just lights it up. But from what I've seen across the last 3 years, it's just not there. He's still too reckless with the ball when it comes to fumbling too much. And, he invites too much pressure, even though he's gotten a little bit better at that over the second half of the season. So I think the Bears can do better, and I think they're going to try to do better. I don't know if they will, but I think they're absolutely going to try.
So, Eric, Tarbill and I have talked about this the last few weeks. I brought it up also. Losing a guy like Justin from that locker room after all the good things that his current teammates have said, guys that have played against him, and his teammates that are no longer on the team, do you see that being a big hiccup moving on from a guy with that kind of, he's the little captain of the locker room? Do you think bringing in a guy like a Caleb Williams, who there's character questions about, do you think that's a bigger hindrance than keeping Justin?
I think that's absolutely going to be a challenge, and I think Poles is the type of GM who's going to be upfront with all the guys in the locker room and saying, "Guys, listen, I know you love Justin, but I feel that we need to go in a different direction, and I feel if you trust me, I'm going to find the right guy for this football team, and we're going to win a lot of football games." And I also know that Poles understands proper character in a quarterback. People need to remember that, yes, he played a role in drafting Patrick Mahomes, who's the best quarterback in football right now, but he also played with Matt Ryan at Boston College. So he's seen what the makeup of a good quarterback and a leader is at that position. So I think he's going to take that into account very heavily when he picks this new quarterback. It's not just going to be about talent, it's going to be about character. So I have confidence that he'll find the right guy for that locker room, and everybody will eventually get on the same page.
So, you look at Caleb Williams and specifically the reports that came out after the bowl game as of recently. You saw the video of the defensive player, I think it was a DB or one of the safeties. One of the guys from the secondary came out and said, "We're a team now," after the backup quarterback came out and threw 6 touchdowns in that bowl game. How much, I mean, obviously there's always outside noise, but how much does that concern you as an evaluator of a quarterback that, someone who's on his own team is saying that Caleb was kind of selfish and almost we're glad that he's not going to be on this team next year? To me, it raises a little bit of a red flag. I'm not saying that Caleb Williams isn't the best quarterback in this draft, and I'm not saying that he's not going to be a phenomenal football player, but there's almost a level of, drama. And, you go back to the culture and you said that you think Ryan Poles has the makeup to pick up a good character guy. And, I'm not sure that Caleb Williams is it. Do you think the Bears draft Caleb Williams, or do you just think they draft a quarterback, whoever that quarterback is?
I might get some heat for this. I don't think they're going to draft Caleb Williams if they do draft a quarterback, even though so many are convinced he's, the next generational guy. I've watched him. He's a phenomenal talent, tremendous improvisational skills, excellent arm, excellent accuracy. He's got a lot of it. Doesn't step up a lot in big games. He's been humbled a lot, especially this past year. People will say he didn't have a lot of help. I understand that. But, he also had a lot of help from that offensive system, which we've seen. Lincoln Riley elevates quarterbacks all the time. So you have to wonder how much of that was Caleb Williams being an unbelievable talent and how much of that was Lincoln Riley helping him. That was one thing. The comments absolutely were another. I've always had a weird feeling about Caleb Williams, a lot of ego, a lot of individualistic sort of stuff. And, he's not my guy in this draft. I'll just put it that way.
So who's your guy? Is your guy Drake May? Because for me, it's too soon for another North Carolina quarterback.
It has nothing to do with that. It's not Drake May. I like Drake May. He's also a phenomenal talent. I don't think he's played enough for me. I like guys who have played a little longer and have shown, proper growth. For me, it's Jaden Daniels. I'm a big fan of Jaden Daniels, not just because he won the Heisman, but because of the progress he's made, what he's overcome. He looks so great this year, not just because of his athleticism. People immediately go straight to the athleticism, how well he runs and all that. He was phenomenal from the pocket a lot this year. He made some throws where I was just like, wow, I didn't know he could make throws like that, on time, on target, in impossibly small windows. And he was playing well against great teams. He played well against Alabama. He played well against other SEC teams. And that's what you want to see. You want to see him step up against the good teams. So that's why I'm a big fan of his. I'm also a big fan of Penix. He also overcame a lot. He's phenomenal from the pocket, the best deep ball thrower in the draft, in my opinion. So If it were
Okay.
if it were my butt on the line, I'd pick one of those two guys.
Very interesting, Eric. Always love hearing your opinions. And as fiery as an opinion that is, I definitely understand it. I've watched some tape on both of those guys, and you have potential to possibly even still trade down a little bit if that's what you want to do.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
You could trade back to that. Well, I mean, you're going to be around the 10th pick, right? With the second, your own first round pick. But
Mhm.
even then, you have the potential to trade back a little bit if that's the route you want to go. However, I think ultimately, if the Bears take a quarterback, I would still like to see them get one of these good receivers in this draft. I think that's still very much a position of need no matter what. And then you look at a guy like Neighbors, who's not really being talked about enough just because obviously Marvin Harrison Jr., right? When your father was the caliber receiver that he was, and then now you're coming out and making phenomenal plays at a very high level. Marvin Harrison Jr. looks great. I don't think that, I mean, obviously he's probably going to go top 3. So I would
I don't see him getting past Carolina.
Arizona.
Or, I mean, Arizona. I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't see him getting past
I
Arizona.
figured that's where you were going.
You
I
know,
would like to
Understandably
see the
so.
Bears. Honestly, I would be okay if the Bears just go with Marvin Harrison Jr. at 1
Mhm.
and put their stake in Justin Fields. And then another guy that I really like is Brock Bowers. However, I don't know that you're going to go wide receiver, tight end in the first round. That would be a little too bold when you have obviously glaring holes on the offensive line. A guy like Joe Alt could help that offensive line tremendously. So, I mean, I feel like we're going to be on the edge of our seats all the way up until draft night. Like to say it was about 6 weeks before the draft that Poles traded the pick to Carolina. I don't think that we're going to see that hand dealt this year. I'd like to see it because it would get me off the edge of my seat, but I think we're going to be cringing all the way up until Roger Goodell walks on the stage and says the Chicago Bears have selected or the Chicago Bears have traded that number 1 pick. So interesting times ahead of us.
No question.
We appreciate you joining us as always, Eric. Thank you for being so gracious with your time. Before we let you go, do you want to let everybody know where they can follow you as well as Sports Mockery?
Sure. You guys have already mentioned it, sportsmockery.com. I write articles for them every day. You know, come if you want your Bears news up to date as possible, come over there and read my stuff. Also, I'm on Twitter all the time, or X, I guess as it's called now, at Eric Lambert 1. I still call it Twitter. I'm always going to call it Twitter. You can't stop me.
Absolutely.
So,
Totally get that.
if you ever want to get in touch with me, find me in those 2 spots and let's talk football.
All right, Eric, we appreciate your time as always. We'll talk to you soon and look forward to catching up with you as we get closer to the draft.
Looking forward to it,
my
boys.
friend. Thanks.
thanks, Eric.
Eric Lambert of Sports Mockery, everybody. 2 really good Bears guests tonight.
And now we're gonna do something that we don't do on this show. We're gonna get an eye on the enemy, right? We're gonna bring somebody on, a guy that I know from a long time ago, who follows the Green Bay Packers up in Green Bay. His name is Kyle Malzahn. We're gonna bring him on. Kyle, how you doing tonight, man?
Good. Thanks so much for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks for jumping on with us, man. This is a little bit of uncharted territory for us. We don't normally get the guys that cover the other teams, but with this being such an important matchup, really for both teams, the Packers and the Bears, I thought, why not shoot you a message, see if you hop on. So, living up in Wisconsin, I've watched a lot of the Packers games this year on as much as I didn't want to.
I'm sorry.
But I wanted to ask you this. Earlier on in the season, Jordan Love struggled a little bit. People were ready to run him out of town. And now all of a sudden, these last 7 games, he's really turned a corner. What do you think the biggest reason for him having this? I mean, he's only had 1 interception, I think, in the last 7 games, 16 touchdowns. So that's pretty impressive. What do you think has helped change the way he's played this late in the season?
Well, you look early on in the season, and there's so many things wrong with this Packers team. Whether it was the young guys not making plays for them, whether it was the O-line pass protection just not, holding their own. And Jordan Love on the list of things that just weren't right for the Packers, he was probably on the bottom half of that list. And then the old line starts to get better. The pass catchers get some games under them, and they start making plays for him. There's no surprise that Jordan Love starts balling out the way he has. And this second half turnaround for Jordan Love has been nothing short of remarkable. Where you see where he was early on. I know he had the first game against Chicago, against your guys' team, and he kind of balls out. Then he lets one slide against the Falcons, but then he went on a stretch where he threw, what was it, it was 8 interceptions in a 5-game span. Things did not look good for him. And now in the second half of the season, he leads the league in passing touchdowns, overall touchdowns, and completions, and he's third in yards, and he's third in completions. This is a high-level quarterback who's really turned it around, and you're starting to see the vision of what Brian Gutekunst wanted to see when he took him in 2020 and when he gave him the reins back in March.
So
Definitely,
we see a guy like Jordan Love who sat behind Aaron Rodgers, right? And then you look at a guy like Justin who was kind of thrust into the starting role before I think the coaches were ready for him to be there. How important do you think that experience behind Rodgers was for Love right now, especially during that tough time that he had this season?
Well, it's the Green Bay way, right? Green Bay does things differently than other NFL teams. They don't thrust their guys into playing at that quarterback position. The hardest position to play in the NFL, you're under all the pressure. You're getting thrown into a situation. If you're a top draft pick, you're in a bad situation. Let's just be real, because if a team takes you first overall, there's first overall for a reason. And so you're starting to see, like, I've covered Jordan Love since he came into the league. If you looked at his footwork back then, it's miles ahead of where it is. And just some of the nuances that he's kind of learned from Aaron Rodgers, it was palpable, right? You're talking off the back foot. You're talking unscripted plays. This is a guy who really, I think, bought into the vision. And, hey, not to mention, they brought back Aaron Rodgers wanted Tom Clemens, a guy who mentored him when he came in the league. He was the quarterback's coach. He brought him back into the organization. The Packers said, okay, they bring him back. And there's no surprise that now Jordan Love, all the things that you thought would be a project, which it was, because he wasn't technically the most sound quarterback coming out of the draft, but there was a lot of hype and there was a lot of promise. And when he got his footwork down and he started to see what Aaron Rodgers did and he started to learn from him, he's had the success. And I really think it's a testament to just the way that Green Bay does things, right? Because it's an interesting case study now that who knows what Jordan Love will be in the long term, but there's no doubt that they got a franchise quarterback within Jordan.
So, Kyle, as somebody who covers Green Bay and obviously Jordan Love in that extent, I want your opinion, kind of raw and honest, on Justin Fields. And what's your thoughts? Obviously, last week, Justin Fields and the Bears offense put up a good performance against Atlanta. Mid-tier defense, not top of the pack, not bottom of the pack, but trending in the right direction over the last few weeks here in Chicago. Do you think, from somebody who's not biased as a Bears fan, such as myself or Angelo, do you think the Bears have found their answer in Justin Fields, or do you think they're going to be drafting a quarterback come April?
Well, I would hate to be the GM there and have to make that decision, because what does it look like when he has weapons, right? Like, what does it look like when he has a competent team around him? Now,
Right.
Justin Fields has done some pretty good things the last few weeks. He's stacked success, but is that stacking success good enough? And what does it look like when you have, a top wide receiver in the league around him? I don't know. I think he's a special talent when it comes to how he uses his feet. Do I think he can be a successful quarterback in the NFL? I think that's yet to be seen. I don't think that he's a good passing quarterback. I haven't seen enough out of him to really sway my opinion to say he can be. I think it would be very interesting if the Bears build around him and truly build and commit to winning football in Chicago and see what he can do as the leader. Now, do they keep him? Do they stick with him? I don't know. I'm not as high on Fields as I think some other people are. Now, he's been scrutinized quite a bit in Chicago. I mean, you're playing in a big media market.
Right.
But man, is that going to be a tough? Is that going to be a tough decision come draft time in 2024?
Kyle, when it comes to the Packers and their offense, what do you think is working better for them, the running game or the passing game right now?
Sorry about that, guys.
That's right.
No.
Running game, passing game. Well, I mean, you have Aaron Jones back, and the Packers, I think, are 15-1 now. When Aaron Jones touches the ball 20 or more times. So that just right there tells you that when Aaron Jones gets the ball, good things happen, right? I mean, they're 15-1. The record doesn't lie. Now, the passing game for Green Bay, they have had the youngest roster on offense in the NFL. And now you're starting to see these guys. I think it could play to Green Bay's factor that they have so many young pieces, right? The fact that they're spreading the ball out more because they have to. They don't, Jordan Love doesn't have a Devontae Adams where they can go to him. I think they have more success in the passing game just because Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon AJ Dillon is battling a broken thumb right now, but Aaron Jones has missed time, and it's had to been that next man up mentality. And these young guys, man, they have just progressed. Jaden Reed's a dude. Luke Musgrave, when he was healthy, was getting progression. Tay Wicks, Dontavian Wicks, a guy that I don't think anybody knew the name, but somehow he just finds the open field and gets the ball. Tucker Kraft has came on. Their passing game right now is hitting on all cylinders. And these young guys, they have to have the guy passing the ball to. And Jordan Love's done a good job finding his receivers and having that success.
Now let's shift gears to the defensive side of the ball where the Packers have struggled this season. Where do you see the Bears being able to take advantage of a defense that just has not looked great this season?
Justin Fields running the ball, right? Like Green Bay has always, it feels like, I don't know the stats off the top of my head, but it feels like Green Bay's defense just struggles when you have a mobile quarterback. Like, how do you contain them? Do you stack the box? Do you bring your linebackers up? Like, there's so many elements to the game where it's like, how do you prepare for that? Now, I think if the Bears do win on Sunday, it will be because Justin Fields runs all over them, which we saw last year. I think Justin Fields had, 2 rushing touchdowns, and one of them was like a 50 or 60 yarder or something. Like, it was ridiculous. If they win, it's going to be because of the legs of Justin Fields.
All right, my last question for you, Kyle. I appreciate you jumping on, man. What team is this game more important to? The Packers are looking to bounce back after losing Rodgers. Can Jordan Love take this team to the playoffs? You win and you're in. Or do the Bears need this victory more just simply to kind of catapult them into the next season?
I think for both teams, there's a lot on the lines, right? Like, it's hard to pick one. I mean, when you look at Green Bay, this is a team that was a disaster class midway point in the season. It was like, which way is the season going to go? And it looked like a lost season. But you have the youngest roster in the NFL, and if they can find a way in a transition year, rebuild, transition, retool, whatever, and find a way to make the postseason, you go into next year really, really, with expectations through the roof of winning in Green Bay. And for the Bears, I mean, I don't cover them as much. I get to see their games a little bit more that they're in the NFC North, but it can pull them into believing that they have something really good starting and generating in Chicago. So there's a lot on the line for both teams. I know just Green Bay getting in the postseason in a transition season, you lose, a 4-time MVP, first ballot Hall of Famer when they Aaron Rodgers. And if you can go into the postseason in Jordan Love's first year, man, the people inside 1265 Lombardi Avenue, they're going to be pleasantly surprised if that can happen.
Absolutely. Kyle, we appreciate you joining us tonight. Thank you for giving us some time, and we do appreciate hearing the other side, because us as Bears fans can get a little jaded sometimes, but thank you again
Sometimes.
for joining us. Do you want to let everybody know where they can find and follow you before we let you go?
Yeah, so you guys can follow my work. Not that a lot of you will, because I'm a Packers reporter, but on Twitter at Kyle Malzahn, KyleMalzhan. I am a sports reporter anchor at WFRV TV in Green Bay. It's the CBS affiliate. So if you're
Okay.
ever in the Green Bay area or the Fox Valley area, you see me out and about, say hi. Let's get a beer and talk some ball.
Hell yeah, man.
Absolutely. Sounds good. We appreciate it, Kyle. We'll talk to you soon, man. Thanks
I
again.
appreciate y'all. Have a good night.
Yep,
Good luck
you
this
too.
weekend.
Thanks.
Not
Yo,
gonna
let me
lie, Ace. That was a little tough for me.
let me just say this real
I'm
quick.
just kidding. No,
Tonight's show, right? We've had guests on. We've had multiple guests on. I don't think we've ever had 3 guests on in one show, cram it all into an hour, and then still have time to hit the end of the show.
Yeah, no, that was definitely a very great way to close the show out, especially getting a different perspective from behind enemy lines, so to speak, as we would say. So, it's always fun it's always fun hearing different perspectives, and Kyle was class act, man. I mean, he had some real things to say about Justin Fields, even though he voiced some concerns. I mean,
me and Kyle met during COVID, and I had him on in the first inception of my podcast that was only audio. We had a conversation an hour long about the Cubs, and that's how we began to talk. He was a friend of my stepbrother, and we started talking about the Cubs, and then then he just kind of blew up, and now he's covering the Packers. I thought, this is a pretty big week for both teams. Why not try to get an eye on the enemy and see, what the vibe is around the Packers? Because I don't know if you know this, but I think we're kind of biased towards the Bears on this show.
Maybe just a little bit, but you know what? It's my job to be biased towards the Bears. I am a Bears fan for life. I bleed the blue and orange, my friend. Come on now. You know better than that, Ace. Ultimately, I think, as you said, it was great to hear different perspectives. Our guy Greg Braggs from CHGO, always a class act. Some shocking takes from Eric Lambert of Sports Mockery, saying
I wasn't he's
going to take Jaden Daniels. I was not expecting to hear that on the airwaves tonight. And then to cap it off with Brent giving us that perspective, or I'm sorry, Kyle giving us that perspective from
Brent's in the chat just throwing everybody off because this is going nuts.
Throw me off. But Kyle
did kind of scare me a little bit. So living up here, man, like I pay a little more attention to the Packers. And obviously I hate the Green Bay Packers. But Jordan Love has had a solid season. And the thing about the Packers, they don't.
I'm going to stop you right there. You said solid season. Last week, Jordan Love officially threw for more yards in one season than a Bears quarterback ever has.
Okay, so he's had a good year. Whatever. But I will never give any props to Packers except for this one.
Are you trying to mock me? I can't understand.
Oh God, I miss Cutler.
Stop it.
His wide receivers, right? The thing about that Jordan Love does better than Justin is spread the ball, right? Jordan Love, I don't think any of his receivers have over 700 yards receiving, but there's like 2 or 3 guys on this team that have over 600 yards receiving. So like you're spreading the ball out, and I think that's going to be something that this defense is really going to struggle with. I'm hoping that these young guys can. I think really when we get to the bare bones, we'll talk about this a little more. But I do think that if the Bears defense come to play like they've played the last couple of weeks, I think the Bears really can surprise a lot of people going into this game or leaving this game. Sorry.
Yeah, I absolutely think this is a very winnable game for the Chicago Bears. And I think they're going to go in with a fire lit under them, so to speak. We alluded to it earlier in the show, but ultimately you look at what the Bears have to play for, and that's knocking Green Bay out of the playoffs.
Right. I think it would be so fucking great, bro. For not only did they lose last year to the Lions and not make the playoffs,
but then they lose to the Bears.
To the Bears.
Week 17 to end the season.
And that's why I asked him about like what team is this more important to? I know the Packers,
I think
they weren't
it's more
expecting
important to
much.
the Bears.
I agree in the fact that, like Bragg said, you want to compare yourself to the Lions of last year, right? Well, then you have to
In
go
order
out
to
and
do that, you got to win.
exactly. You have to go out there and show people, hey, we're not going to just keep losing to Green Bay.
Right.
If they beat the Packers, they go 500 in the division this year. That is a huge step
Huge
in the right
improvement.
direction going into next season.
And I said it when we first got on to start the show. The Chicago Bears team is really trending in that direction of, okay, this is where we could be, where the Detroit Lions are this season, next year, easily. If the Bears put the right pieces in play, this team could be phenomenal next season and could be a real playoff contender. And I'm excited for it. I'm here for it. I am all for it, my friend. But let's go ahead and take a quick 30-second break, Ace, and then we will get into our bare bones.
Should I wear my cool Bears hat for the? No. I won't wear this.
I mean, you can. It would have been cooler if you had not asked me about it.
I don't think my headphones will fit over it. So
but,
I don't think my headphones will fit.
So, guys, each and every week we bring you our bare bones segment, which is Out of Hibernation's own Keys to a Bears Victory. We give you 3 topics each and every week as to why we think the Chicago Bears will be successful, or what they need to do rather to be successful. And this week is no exception. So let's get right into it.
Play to the whistle, man. Let's be great today. Let's be great. Win out 3, 1, 2, 3. Win.
All right, guys, and we are back with you right here on Out of Hibernation. I am Andrew Tarbill. To my left is the guy, Angelo Ace Camacho. And we are back with our bare bones, our keys to a Bears victory. So let's get right into it, Ace. Obviously, we've talked about it through the longevity of the show, so it should be no surprise to anyone. And our key number 1 to the Bears victory this Sunday is Justin Fields. We've got Brent here in the chat saying no more screen passes. Let it fly. Don't let up after leading. I love it.
Wow, that was 3 great comments in a row from you, Brent. I love it. Thank you.
I love it. Good stuff, Brent. Good feedback. But ultimately, it is going to come down to Justin Fields being successful on offense, his ability to run the ball situationally when he needs to. Be smart about it. Last week, he had 45 yards, give or take, on the ground. Was very smart about it. Didn't take any hits. He did dive for the one crucial first down there early in the fourth quarter to extend the drive for the Chicago Bears. But other than that, he was smart, got down when he needed to, still didn't get the roughing the passer calls that he deserves to get that elude him each and every week. But don't get me on that horse because I could talk about that for hours. Justin Fields needs to be able to throw the ball downfield successfully early on, open up the passing game. I would like to see if Darnell Mooney plays this Sunday. I would like to see the connection.
I don't think he's going to play. I heard on ESPN 1000 that he's trending in the opposite direction.
Well, that's fine. Then I guess it's going to be all about DJ Moore and all
that's
about.
That's all it's been all fucking year. That's all it's been all year.
I'm good with that. Tyler Scott's getting some more opportunities in the slot, which I do
Cole
like.
Kmet's been a good weapon for Justin.
You have to think that obviously Tyler Scott was drafted as the guy to replace Darnell Mooney, especially with the lack of chemistry that Darnell Mooney's had with Justin Fields this season. I for sure don't see him being back with the Chicago Bears next year.
Which is stupid because they should have traded him at the trade deadline if that was the way they were going to go, right?
Yeah, but
I mean, that's a topic for another
value then. I mean, honestly, but
you don't think the Kansas City Chiefs would have thrown you a 3rd round pick for Darnell Mooney looking at the freaking guys they got on that
maybe
team
maybe not, but back to the topic at hand. Perfection is perfection, so don't let us understand. Justin Fields, everybody, has to be the man this Sunday. He has to come out and play aggressively. I'm going to say for the Bears to win this game, Justin Fields needs to be north of 250 yards passing, and north of 65 yards rushing. I think we're looking at a 315 total yards out of Fields game for the Chicago Bears to be able to win. And I think it's very doable. Last week he was at 318 total yards. I think that 250 mark's going to be easy for him to hit against a weakened Packers secondary, really, as well as their linebacking core has not been super consistent throughout the course of the year. So I think we really have a chance to see Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears offense thrive out here this Sunday at 3:25 p.m. against the Green Bay Packers defense. What are your thoughts, Ace?
I think something is telling me. I don't know if it's my spider senses or
You got
what.
you got an Angelo.
Yeah, I got my Angelo senses, my Ace's senses are tingling here, and I'm thinking I see a game where Justin goes off. Like remember last year when I sent out that tweet against the Patriots, and I said, "Is this the game that Justin Fields goes off?" And then the Bears had the number one offense for the next 6 weeks in a row. That's this game. I'm not obviously the next 6 weeks in a row can't happen, but this is a game where I think they're going to go out there to make a point. You're playing against a defense that is struggling hard.
You have nothing to lose, right?
And you have nothing to lose. I think this is a game where Justin goes out there and he'll put up 280 yards through the air. I'm going to
stop you right there, and let's give our guy north of 300. If we're saying
shit, all right,
let's give Justin Fields.
I'm going to say all right,
300 passing yard game.
I go a little crazy sometimes. I don't know if you guys watched this show before the season started when I predicted 12 wins. Didn't happen.
All right, I'm going to stop you right there though, because this team, if they win on Sunday, is an 8-win team, and
they should have won 3 other games this season.
Should have easily been won. So 11.
So we were actually pretty
right
close.
there knocking on the door, my friend.
I think our takes on this show, I'm not, I might be biased again, but I'm almost positive we are fucking dead on most of the time.
Most of the time.
But
you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
That's right.
Wayne Gretzky or somebody.
That's right. Somebody like that. But I see Justin, you want to go over 3? Let's say over 3. 300 plus through the air, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, and then I got him 48 to 50 yards on the ground with a scrambling touchdown.
So a 350 total yard day.
Yeah.
From Justin Fields
4
with
4
touchdowns, 1 on the ground and 3 in the air. I think that in my opinion would be exactly what needs to happen
and
for
I think
this Bears team to keep Justin Fields next season.
I think that needs to happen for them to win this game. I think the Packers are playing well enough that they're going to need to keep up with this team. I as much as I like the way this defense is played, they're the number 1 rush defense right now, but Aaron Jones is a completely different monster than a lot of these running backs that they've played.
They just played Bijan Robinson, who's an absolute beast.
Chill. Arthur Smith is a complete and utter moron who doesn't know how to run an offense.
That he is.
You cannot change my mind on that. You have the guy that everybody said the best running back in football.
But he's got a ballin' ass mustache. His mustache game on point.
Brent, I'll shout out to you, Brent. Brent can rock a mustache better than anybody I know.
We got a comment here in the chat once again from Brent. Hot take. I'm cool with a risky pick if that means Justin Fields airs it out. Brent, I'm good with a single risky pick if Justin Fields airs the ball out and still scores 4 touchdowns on the day. I can live with 1 interception. Live and die by it. I mean, us as Chicago Bears fans, we were so used to seeing Jay Cutler just fling the ball around the field like a missile, and 50% of the time it was to the defense. So you know what? I'm okay with 1 pick if the Bears score 3 to 4 touchdowns, still win the game. I can live with 1 interception in an outing like that. Moving on to our number 2 bare bones topic here this evening, guys. The pass defense. The pass defense has to be aggressive. And this kind of ties into point number 3. You can see it here on the screen, pressure up the middle. The defense has to be aggressive in all phases. They have to blitz aggressively. The secondary has to have that ball hawk mentality. We talked about it a little bit earlier in the show. Defense 4 picks last week. Obviously, Jordan Love, a little bit better caliber quarterback than what they're working with over in Atlanta right now. But ultimately, I think that our defense is going to stick to these young receivers. I think Christian Watson is really probably the only threat in their passing game, so to speak, that's really going to explode. Other guys can dink and dunk you down the field, but I think really Christian Watson is the one that you have to shut down. Obviously, Tyreek Stevenson's been playing at a high level the last couple weeks. Really throughout the season, had a great rookie campaign. Kyler Gordon, Jaquan Brisker also both playing really well. That needs to continue in the secondary. Montez Sweat playing at a very high level. That pressure needs to continue. I want to see a big game out of Yannick Ngakwe. I feel like for this team to really
he's injured.
He's injured?
Yeah.
Oh,
He's been
thanks,
injured.
Ace.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ace. All right. Well, I want to see a big game out of Walker or Green or one of the other guys that's on the other side of that. We'll cut that out when we do the audio version.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah.
But,
I won't put that on TikTok. We're good.
With
It's
that
okay.
being said,
you know what
I
though? It's funny because he was kind of a non-factor for the most part anyway, so that's why you didn't even notice because he was unnoticeable.
I just wanted to say
season.
Yannick Ngakwe one more time.
One more time. Well, I mean, we'll have one more of these shows before the season's over. You know,
well,
I mean,
of course, but we won't be talking about him then. Oh, look at that. We have a spam comment in the chat. We're famous enough to get spam comments.
Yo,
let's put it up here right now. Ravi and Sorana, a strong duo, says hi with their Fortnite character.
That's right.
I got a reaction request for y'all. Down to watch a vid on stream?
No, I'm good.
No, we are definitely not. Yeah, let's go ahead and ban user and delete their comments.
Boom.
Yep. That's what we're doing there.
Next, now I need some people to just start hating on me and saying how bad my takes are. I had that once. I felt like a king. For real.
Hey, you know what? I'll tell you that right now, live on the air. I don't give a fuck.
Packers suck.
No, but ultimately, back to the topic at hand. The pass defense of the Chicago Bears needs to be elite. We need to put pressure up the middle. The linebackers need to come down hard. I need the jackhammer to have a hell of a game. We got a comment here. I've just rewarded you all. Yeah, I'm not.
I think I know. I know who that is.
That.
I think I know who that is.
But... anyways, it's a PG show for the most part.
PG.
So,
I said. You're right.
I just dropped an F-bomb like
no F-bombs
seconds ago.
No more. We're gonna keep it professional.
All right.
That's it. I'm reading the comments now just because I like to see what everyone's saying.
Stop reading the comments. Focus on the topic at hand, Ace.
What are we talking about?
Monsters of the Midway. We need to have a good defensive game. The pressure up the middle needs to be present. I want to see the jackhammer pounding through those holes as much as he can.
That's right.
No, ultimately,
Jack Sanborn. Let's go.
TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds obviously have both been phenomenal this season. Great acquisitions by the Chicago Bears, and I really want to see.
I have one prediction.
Go ahead.
That's going to shift this whole game. Jalen Johnson gets a pick 6 in this game.
Jalen Johnson gets a pick 6.
He's had 2 this season that were really close that he just could not hold on to. He's got baby hands or something. Baby hands. But I think it happens this week.
I just want to give a quick shout out our guy Foster Covers here in the chat. Happy New Year, everyone. He was gracious enough to bring me on his program it's been a couple months now, but it was a great time, and always love going to talk Bears with other people. So, it's the Bears are a phenomenal thing to talk about, Ace. We could sit here and read the comments all night. Our chat is going crazy right now, honestly.
I know. It's funny.
Making it a little difficult to focus, but
I'm a professional. Okay, we're professionals here.
This Bears team is going to Oh, so we got a comment here. This guy's saying, Ace, I'm actually nobody you know.
Everybody knows me, and I know everybody.
So
That's how this rolls.
now, been a great show tonight, though. We had some really insightful comments from all three of our guests tonight. Got the perspective of not only two guys who work in the Chicago media, but then your guy Kyle there in the Green Bay media.
I will say, I think the booking of this show, give myself a little pat on the back for it because it was pretty solid. I mean, you did help too, which is always good. I missed you so much over the last 2 weeks.
I'm glad you did, and I'm glad to be back, my guy. This is what we do best, chopping it up, talking Bears football. And we got Brent here. Ace, who do we keep? I think he's asking who do we keep as far as the defensive players, possibly. I'm going to say what I kind of elaborate on what I said earlier. I think Eddie Jackson, as much as I love him, is gone after this season. I do think we keep Jalen Johnson. I think the Bears swung and missed big time by not signing Jalen Johnson earlier in the season and getting a deal done.
Okay. This is the clarification comment that I needed right now.
Oh,
Fields coaching or everything. All right.
So
the question was for me.
I know he asked your opinion, but I'm gonna say the Bears.
We didn't even give our opinions tonight, which is wild because that's the premise of this show is so people can hear our lovely voices. But all right,
our
Brent,
guy here, Frizelli Summers. I'm new. I was searching random lives through the YouTube filter. It's 3:02 a.m. here in England.
So I guess I don't know him. I could.
You may not, but we appreciate you tuning in, my guy.
Out there.
Thank you.
I'll fly out there.
Our guy Foster saying Jalen Johnson stays and gets paid. I like it. I agree with that.
So let me answer Brent's question.
Go ahead.
I think everybody stays if they win this game. If the Bears beat the Packers,
everyone stays if they win this game.
So here's my thought process, right? Why would you keep a coach who, if they struggle next year, is going to be fired? No shot he's not. And have him pick a quarterback. Why? They did that shit with Justin. They did that shit with Mitch.
That they did.
Why would you continue? If you're in a circle or a cycle of suck, right? Eventually, take it from somebody who's broken cycles in his life. You have to eventually be like, hey, this shit isn't working. We
got to do something else here.
Exactly. So keep everybody one more year. What's the worst that happens? They lose. They win 3 games again. Ooh, like we haven't been there before.
So I'm going to stop you there. And I'm going to say the Chicago Bears keep Justin Fields, in my humble opinion. And I think that they should. I think Justin Fields has proven enough on the football field throughout the longevity of this season, especially down the stretch here. You've really seen him go through his progressions and his reads way better than he did earlier in the season, and especially leaps and bounds ahead of last year. Statistically, on paper, you may not see the leap year 2 to year 3 that you would have hoped to have seen. But characteristically, when you watch each and every game and go back and watch the tape, I think Justin Fields has done a tremendous job going out and playing consistently, doing what the Bears have needed him to do. He's limited his turnovers the last few weeks. He's looked really sharp. And I think this is a very winnable game for us on Sunday because of that. Got our guy Foster here saying Bears 27, Packers 17.
That's something we forgot to ask all the guests.
We haven't done our score predictions yet, but I love it. Early prediction there in the chat from Foster. I'm going to say the Bears win this game. I'm going to go a little bit bolder, and I'm going to say...
Do it.
I'm going to say 33-21.
Look at this. Foster, my guy, exactly what I would do. Keep Fields, get a haul. The amount of stuff you'll get back this year is going to be double what you got back last year for the overall number 1 pick. Sorry to interrupt, Tarbill. What was your prediction?
Go ahead. I'm going to say 33-21. I think the Bears get the victory, but circling back to answer Brent's question, I think the Bears keep Justin Fields. I think they keep Matt Eberflus. I think Getsy's the fall guy.
I think so too.
I think Luke Getsy gets the axe, And I'm perfectly okay with that because when you throw 30 screen passes in a game, you are not a competent play caller. That's all I have to say. And to further elaborate on what Foster had said there in the chat, you can get an absolute haul especially if Ryan Poles holds these picks to his chest and really waits and sweats it out and makes teams think that there's a chance he's going to take a quarterback. You could get 3 first-round picks potentially and a veteran player.
This isn't happening. This isn't happening.
What?
Brent, stop this nonsense. Getsy is gone. He's a double agent for the Packers. I stand by that. I've said it since day one.
So I'm gonna stop you there, Ace, and scroll back up a little bit here in the comments. Brent wanted to know our opinion on Marvin Harrison Jr. I love Marvin Harrison Jr. I think when you use the term generational talent, I think that's being way overused on Caleb Williams,
without a doubt,
and way underused on our guy Marvin Harrison Jr. You see his ability to go up and complete those 50-50 catches easily. You see his route running ability and how he can progress through the route tree with ease. Honestly,
let me ask you this. If the Bears decided to use that first pick on him, would you be disappointed?
I would absolutely not be disappointed if the Chicago Bears walk up to the podium and you hear somebody like, I'm going to say Lance Briggs, walk out and say, the Chicago Bears have selected with the first overall pick Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver from the Ohio State University.
I mean, you got an Ohio State quarterback. You got a number 1 Ohio State wide receiver. I mean, it sounds to me like a match made in heaven.
He ran track with DJ Moore
so
back
there
in
you
Philly.
Go. There's all that connection.
There's the connection. I love it. Our guy Foster saying MHJ, he is the best talent in the draft by leaps and bounds. I mean, you just go watch 10 minutes of tape on this guy, and I don't even want you to go watch a highlight reel, guys. I want you to go out and just search a random game of Marvin Harrison Jr.'s career, and within 10 minutes, you will fall in love with him no matter what game you watch. Just his ability to be so dynamic, run all the different routes. You can put him at the X, Y, or Z, be such a versatile player for the Chicago Bears. And, another name, I mentioned it earlier in the show, not that I think they're going to go wide receiver, tight end in the first round, but another name that I really like in this draft is Brock Bowers. He's a wide receiver that's just a little too heavy to be wide receiver, so he's a tight end.
So he's tight end. I don't see. I just don't see it because you just signed Cole Kmet. If they didn't sign Kmet, then I could see a situation where that's an option.
But you need another good tight end. You have 2 tight end sets, and Mercedes Lewis and Bobby Tunyon ain't getting it done.
I mean, the big guy
Bobby
had a
Tunyon
touchdown.
dropped a 55-yard dart that hit him in the hands that was a touchdown pass from Justin Fields. I do agree that Cole Kmet is the guy, though.
That's why I think that
unlikely.
I think a lot of the scrutiny with Justin is valid, but I also think that there's other opportunities that haven't capitalized with him. I think there's been a lot of times where he's made the right read, but his receivers just haven't come through for him.
No, hey, we got a comment here. No receiver has been taken number 1 overall since Keyshawn Johnson in 1996. That guy that works for ESPN used to play football.
Yeah, he didn't know that. He Googled the shit out of that. But hey,
no, that's a true story. But
the Bears are gonna get Marvin Harrison Jr. I hope that they can move back to the 3rd spot and get him.
Positionally, I would like to see him be able to move back and obviously get some more picks this year and for future years. But ultimately, if they take him with number 1, I'm not going to be heartbroken. I think a combination of DJ Moore and Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be as good or better than the Chicago Bears.
That's what dreams are made of, I'm pretty sure.
Then the Chicago Bears with Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey in their prime.
I agree.
I think you have a true 1-2 threat there that's just absolutely phenomenal. I think it takes the pressure off of everybody else. It gives Tyler Scott the ability to play well out of the slot.
Do you know who the
Kmet,
quarterback was during that time?
Are you like trying to mock me? I kind of understand.
I'm fully aware Jay Cutler was the quarterback during
That's
that time.
right.
Packers suck.
I didn't say anything about the quarterback play at that
No,
time.
but I'm just saying, if Cutler can get that kind of productivity out of those guys, just imagine with those two guys with Fields, Kmet. Oh man, a good running game with, Roshan Johnson.
We got Foster
I
here
agree.
saying that is exactly why Poles
Now
will trade the
Tarbill,
pick and
I've
get
played that
NHL.
Packers suck drop twice to end the show, but I'm gonna do it one more time just because I love it.
Packers suck.
The
And
Packers
it's
do
Packer
suck,
week.
but you know what? Ace, I'm fired up. It is Bears Packers week, my friend.
Meat
I
and
am
cheese,
fired up.
baby,
You
meat
got
and
somewhere to
cheese.
go? Is it your bedtime? It might be.
I'm old, man. I'm old as hell. I gotta get to bed. I got fucking nothing.
With that being said, I want to thank each and every one of you for hanging in here with us for the last hour and a half. Your comments, your engagement have made this a phenomenal show. Be sure to go like, subscribe, and follow the Undefeated Sports Network. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and coming soon to Spotify. So appreciate each and every one of you guys that have been out here tonight engaging with us. Thank you to our guests as well. Greg
Thank
Braggs,
you to you, Tarbill.
Greg Braggs Jr., Eric Lambert, as well as I'm sorry, I don't know. I can't say
Kyle
Kyle's
Malzahn.
last name.
I got
Kyle
it.
Malzahn.
Yeah, I got you.
Phenomenal content that those guys came and always bring their true and honest opinions. With that being said, guys, we appreciate each and every one of you. Please go like, subscribe, and follow, and have a good evening. We will be back right here next week on the Undefeated Sports Network to recap
wrap
the
the
Bears
season, baby.
and talk all things that are going to happen in 2024 and beyond. It is an exciting time to be a Bears fan, guys. Be sure to follow us. You don't want to miss out on the next show, the next conversation that Ace and I have here. It's always great time talking with each and every one of you guys and our guests. So have a good night, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Bye.